Hey everyone, it's Thacker. Hope you're all keeping well. I'm joined today by a good friend. I've seen and known Tom for a number of years now. Tom Thacker from Century, the Chief Education Officer. So welcome, Tom.
Thank you for having me. Great to be here.
And you know what? I can't wait to get into today's conversation, Tom, just because I know how passionate you are about this. But also, it's such a pertinent and big challenge in the sector at the moment. But before we get into kind of functional skills and technology and what you guys do as a business, for anyone who doesn't know you and I suppose hasn't witnessed or experienced your passion about this, Tom, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Great. Happy to. I think if you could summarize me like in a sentence, it would be like a maths nerd. But my background is that I became a maths teacher quite a long time ago. Worked in a state school in a quite deprived area of Birmingham for a number of years, where I really experienced students who wanted to thrive in maths but struggled for their environment, the conditions, the school, but really driven. And I loved that. Became kind of head of maths there, various other senior leadership roles a long time ago now, but really enjoyed it. Always loved maths, but actually found it more of a passion for those who love maths but had never been kind of driven to do it that much, trying to pass their GCSEs or go on to their A levels. Kind of really, my background kind of enjoyed that, but really what I really found is how do you help those students outside of the school hours? That was my passion. Like in school, I've got maybe a few hours a week with learners, but I knew for those learners, when they went home, they didn't have what I had when I grew up. Like I'm the son of an accountant. Maths was force-fed to me 24/7. And that's part where my passion came from, but where my skill set came from. I thought, how on earth do I help these students at home? And I did after school clubs, we were around like weekend clubs and holiday clubs. There's no scale in that. So along with being a maths nerd, I was also a bit of a tech nerd. I thought, well, hold on. You know, when I was at school, when you were at school, tech was less of a thing. The internet was just coming out of modems that beep at you.
100%.
Well, actually, you know, when I first started teaching, it was mainly CD-ROMs. I was like, actually, I can burn videos onto a CD-ROM, but started providing learners with like, actually, here's a video of me. I've recorded a video of me teaching, you know, factorizing brackets and watches at home, make some notes. I thought, actually, for students who want to learn, tech is a hugely scalable thing. So my passion came to that. A few years later, now 7 years ago from now, joined Century as like, actually, here's a company who are really looking at how can we use tech to really help learners across the world. To improve their kind of maths, English, science, kind of whatever it is. That's my passion, is that I think tech is such a scalable solution and everything, hardware's getting better, internet's getting better, it's really good now, it's only gonna get better in the future, more and more access. So what you really need is a great platform with great pedagogy and great content that can really help learners.
And Tom, you know, I didn't know that about you before, but it makes so much sense. So and I think back to some of our previous conversations, I've got penny droppings in my mind thinking, yep, now I get why he thinks that. You mentioned about working in a deprived school and being from Birmingham. I don't know which one's worse, having to work in Birmingham. I can say that because I'm from Birmingham. And so you talked about, you know, you've worked in that kind of pre-16 space, you're operating in that post-16 space. In relation to functional skills, English and maths, I suppose what are the big differences between the two? Because surely English and maths is English and maths, right?
It's you're right. Qualification-wise, they tend to be the same. Curriculum-wise, the same. They sit the same. If you're doing a GCSE resit, it's the same paper on the same day at the same time as the students doing it in year 11. But that's the same. Everything else is different. And again, you know, when I was a secondary maths teacher, it's still very true. It's an incredibly hard job. It's an incredibly rewarding job being a teacher, but it's really hard being a secondary school teacher. But actually, and I taught a bit of post-16 in our sixth form of A levels and a little bit of GCSE resit, small number of learners, but never at the scale you have in a college or a training provider where you've got those apprentices or those adult learners or the post-16 students who are doing GCSE resits. And I've visited now, I don't know how many college and training providers, you know, probably over 100 in the last kind of 5-6 years. And the difference is actually quite stark. And you don't appreciate this as a school teacher, the regular things. So as someone trying to get someone to pass a year 11 GCSE maths, for example, what do I have when I was head of maths, what did I have? I had 5 years. Year 7, year 8, year 9, year 10, you've got 5 years. You've got a number of hours. When I was teaching year 11, those ones trying to get in old money a C now kind of a 4-5 to make sure they passed, as the government call it, a good pass. I had 9 hours a fortnight trapped in a room with me in their seats. Like, sounds quite extreme, but if I put it for school, but actually, if you head to an FE college, like 9 hours in a room, it's crazy. And then they were in the room, they were physical. I had the ability to do detentions if required. Didn't do their homework, they weren't listening, weren't paying attention. They didn't attend school. There's fines for parents. It's quite a serious thing. You've got all of those things. You go to FE, you go, you haven't got 9 hours a fortnight. Attendance is so much more about, it's a battle in secondary, trust me. In FE, it's even more a battle. The idea of detentions is completely laughable. Yeah. And you haven't got those things. And what you've also, when I've got students, I'm saying, you can pass. You can do this. If they're at FE having to resit GCSE or doing functional skills, they've been told by a bit of paper and an exam board in the government, you can't pass.
So true.
You've had a go, and in their mind, they failed. Now, hopefully they've got a 3, a 2, or 1, they've got a qualification. Failure is a really bad word for it. They're being forced to resit. They've been told that mindset. I can like challenge that. I can fight the negativity, and it's not factual. Get to post 16, for a lot of them, it's factual. They've been told that they failed. So they've also got that mindset change of I can't do it. But there is one advantage. I'm scraping the barrel trying to find an advantage here. There is definitely one difference. This is where the best training advisors and best colleges I see is that you have adults. Now, they might at times seem like adults, post 16s, but they're adults. Technically, they're adults. Many of them are driving. They might be adults, like drinking, voting, etc. That's a different mindset. I think the best colleges I've seen have really tapped into that, going, you're adults, you're independent. I can't do detentions. I'm not going to ring home. That's not going to work. It's on you now. You want to get this so you can pass part of your apprenticeship, or you need this to apply for a job, or whatever you're doing. It's no longer being forced because you're in school. I do what I'm told because I'm in school. I go every day and I'm in year 11. How you tap into those adults, for me, is everything in post 16, and getting to be like, it's on you guys now to own this and drive this forward.
And do you know what, Tom, a couple of things that you mentioned that I really love. So one was 100% that mindset piece, because you're right, this isn't just a case of you've got to go do something because you've been told to, because actually you don't have the same authoritative figures saying you must. But I suppose the other thing as well, the benefit when you're pre-16 going into a classroom to be taught maths, you're going into a room specifically to be taught maths. Often with a vocational learning, it's look, you're learning this vocation, and as a byproduct or part of, you've got to do this thing that, like you said, you don't like. You didn't get right first time around, and actually you don't necessarily feel the correlation between maths and English, for example, and retail, management, care, whatever vocation it is.
What you've also got in many circumstances is the person delivering it. In lots of cases, they are maths and English specialists. I love maths.
Yeah, maths, I can see that, Tom.
An absolute joy. I did it all day every day. I love doing it. It's such a passion. But you might have someone who's, you're right, they're teaching whether it's administration or hair and beauty or construction, and they've got to also do the maths. They're not going to have the same passion delivered across there. There's also a kind of a disadvantage they've got. The teacher isn't driven by that thing they're having to do. So you've got perhaps the teacher in some cases and the learner, neither of them enjoying it or wanting to be there.
So Tom, just based on what you've just said, I totally agree. And I know Century operates in not just the post-16, in the pre-16 and internationally as well. Might sound a bit crude and obvious, but why tackle the post-16 space? I mean, you're already international, you're smashing it on pre-16. Why? Why take on the challenge?
I think people talk about the forgotten third quite a lot, and it's really true. Really, really true. And again, for me, having someone who went to school, went to university, did a degree, I wasn't even really aware of the FE space in my kind of my privileged life that I've had. But we were essentially, when we first started, we were focused on that pre-16. And then, I can't remember how or where, came across BCOT, so Basingstoke College of Technology. I went to visit, this is years ago now, met Anthony Bravo. You were watching this, if you know Anthony Bravo, you know Anthony Bravo. And I'm a big guy, I'm 6 foot plus. I felt tiny. Anthony Bravo is a big guy and a great guy. And he really said, look, I love what you guys do. What you've built is amazing. It's really clever. It's great technology. You've got great content. You built it for schools. I want to talk to you and to meet my team, how you could adapt this and change this for post 16. And really his passion came across. He then helped us introduce very people at the AOC, and across that space, met lots of colleges. Actually, to my point at the start of like, where can you make the most impact? This is where you make the most impact.
Yeah.
These are the learners who need it the most. They need the most help. They need the most support. They are the forgotten third, especially in maths and English, and they are forgotten by various, tech companies are all focused on the school space. Not that many focus on the FE space and give it the respect and effort and investment that it needs. And Anthony was the first person we met. We've met loads of great college and training provider leaders since, and teachers and tutors. The passion comes across, and we thought, actually, we'd have a real impact here, and I think we've done that.
And Tom, you talked there about investment, and I want to talk a little bit more about that, because technology is not cheap. I mean, I know you guys have been running for a very long time, but I was speaking to a couple of the people in your team, and I've seen the level of investment you guys have made into technology. Where do you think, and how do you think that fits in to the FE space?
Yeah, I think a really interesting question. I think you look at most products, they focus at GCSE. They focus at maybe at A level. There are loads of university products, and there's a lack of investment. People see there's a lack of perhaps return. And essentially we measure return in two ways. Obviously, you've got that financial return. We are a business. We sell our product to schools and colleges. But actually the return in having an impact on those learners and their teachers and their tutors, saving their workload, is so important. There's been such a lack of investment in this space for people, and we listened and we learned, and we've done a lot since. And when we first started off, we were just doing learning. You're on the course, functional skills GCSE, we support with your learning. And then some of our colleges went, that's great. But again, the difference between schools and colleges is schools, you've had them for numerous years. You don't need to do initial assessment. You don't need to do a diagnostic. You've had year 7, year 8, year 9. You've got all this data. What we have to do in FE in training providers is initial assessment to get on the right course, the right level, and do a diagnostic. Will you guys invest time, effort, money, research into this area? And we did. It's had a huge impact to actually, let's refresh how colleges and training providers do initial assessments, how they do diagnostics, and how that data is then used.
And just on that, because I saw a piece from I think it was a head of neuroscience, which would be a job title I never would have thought of existed in an ed tech company, because you're so true. It's not just, I suppose, from an outsider looking in, making sure you've got the right people on the right courses, on the right levels, but it's that engagement piece as well. Because, these are, like you said, they're adults, they're post-16. There's a lot more element of choice there. I mean, how have you guys used technology to be accessible, to be engaging? Because, I mean, I've had a sneak peek. I've seen some of the gamification that you do, but what roles that played?
Yeah, I think one of the things that people make a mistake with, they go, let's say to a school, college training provider, what's your ed tech strategy? And that's actually, you shouldn't have an ed tech strategy. You should have a ped tech strategy. And so pedagogy, like what pedagogy are you using to drive learners? As part of that, your teaching and learning, your face-to-face, your online teaching is part of that. And then technology is part of that. It's not a separate, like, here's our teaching and learning, our lesson strategy, and we've got some ed tech because people do. That's all aligned. And we've really thought about, when we're building our content, our technology, kind of what pedagogy, what neuroscientific principles are we going with to help learners engage? And for me, that's, again, the difference in post-16 is technically, when they were at school with someone like me, they finished the curriculum, right? They took the exam, they've had 5 years. Now, whether they did cover all the curriculum or not, vary by learner. So at post-16, the way to make them to engage them, is not give them things they can already do. And also, if you give them things they already can do, they're going to become unmotivated, uninterested, and they haven't got time.
Yeah.
The GC Maths curriculum takes 2 full years to teach, of 9 hours a fortnight in my case. Yeah. You haven't got 2 years and you haven't got 9 hours a fortnight. So the way to do it in your training providers and your colleges is to find the gaps. And that's where a great IA comes in, put them on the right course. If they're on the wrong course, you're in trouble at the start. If your IA is not giving you a accurate result, it's a disaster from then on. Your diagnostic to find the gaps, and that diagnostic should go to 3 places. So one place it goes to is the teacher, the tutor, to then go from my class, my group, my individual. Oh, I normally teach algebra. Actually, this learner or this group are really good at algebra. That's not efficient. It's not a good use of my time.
Yeah.
If you go to the individual, because they're adults, you go, here are your strengths, here are your weaknesses, here's what you should focus on. And in Century, it goes to our platform to say, you've got all the learning content for whether it's functional skills, English or maths or GCSE. Don't give them all of the content.
Yeah.
Because they haven't got the time to do all of those lessons. They're busy doing the apprenticeship, they're working, prioritize that order, finding the gaps in knowledge in like easy to hard order. There's some easy things that they missed the lesson. They forgot when they were at school or whatever it is, they've forgotten it since. Have those quick wins first, and the platform can do it by itself. And that's good. That's what makes it engaging. So, oh, I've watched something, I watched a video, read some slides, whatever it was. I can now do this. Well, I think lots of companies make a mistake of engagement is just, it's coins, it's points, it's fireworks on screen. That's part of it. That's partly engaging. But that lasts for about a week. And then you go, these coins aren't real. I haven't got any money on my online login. What's engaging? Everyone finds learning engaging. They might have a defensive shield saying, I don't like math, I don't like English, because they have suffered in the past. If you learn something, you go, I enjoy that. Everyone wants to improve. The key is of good ed tech is that it helps find those gaps and teach those gaps really quickly so they can taste success.
And actually, Tom, you're 100% right there, because actually when I'm thinking about things I don't like, it's not that I don't like them. I haven't got a fundamental issue with them. I don't like the fact that I'm bad at it.
You can actually, right? I don't want to do that because I want to show that I can't do something, I'm struggling. Everyone wants to get better at things.
100%.
But often, like in class, I was always embarrassed because I couldn't do it. Again, the great thing about ed tech is that you're not in a classroom situation. You haven't got smarty pants next to you, always getting the right answer. You're like, I can't do anything. You're on your own.
Yeah.
You can sit, you can do it, you can take your time, you can hit repeat, you can have a little break, you can watch a video again, you can redo a question, and you can taste success. And that's where ed tech has such an impact.
And Tom, the other bit that I really loved about what you were talking about there was, and you're 100% right, initial assessments can often be thought as, I'm just identifying my level. And then you're going to be chucked the same content that everyone else is going to be chucked at because I've got video content. And that's my ed tech box ticked. But actually what you've described there about that genuine personalization where learners can, at their own pace, at their own space, their own time, but get those wins of learning and start enjoying it. I think that's where 100% the win is.
I think in schooling, when you're teaching something new, you're like, well, none of you know this. You've never seen this topic before. I'm sure if you took a regular group of 20, let's say functional skills level 2 maths learners and combine their brains, they pass. Because they've all got different gaps, because they've all been to different schools, different backgrounds, maybe they're adults, but actually together, they can probably do it all. And that's where teaching is so hard, because you're going to teach one thing, they go, I can do this. Yeah. Because I've never seen that before. And that is so difficult. And then that's where ed tech has such a power, because it can be personalized to the learner.
And I suppose you run the risk then where it is, it has to, where non-ed tech delivery has to be everything to everyone. It's almost, I know that, I feel patronized. What are you trying to say? Just because my maths, my English doesn't mean I'm, an idiot. The other question I was going to just ask, because, technology is evolving super quick. There's lots going on. Anyone who's watched iRobot with Will Smith is worried about, being replaced by robots. What would you say to tutors, trainers, kind of worried about that?
Yeah, I think the answer there is to embrace it. There's a national shortage of teachers, who people want to go into teaching, who want to do other things. What these tools are doing, and essentially a great example of that, is helping your learners and helping you to become more efficient and more powerful and to save you time.
Yeah.
The amount of time I used to spend marking basic quizzes. So technology is better than that, than I am. And that's okay. And the amount of time I spent entering data in a spreadsheet trying to work out gaps. Well, computers are better at that for me, and that's okay. But computers are not better at motivating a learner, at having that connection, having that conversation, getting them engaged, and that's what they should be focused on, and teaching the right thing. Let tech be good what tech's at, which is analyzing data, marking questions, being awake 24/7 on the being on the bus with the learner. I don't want to do that as a teacher, but when I'm with that teacher tutor, I want to be as efficient, as powerful, and as human as I can be. And it's where the two work perfectly together.
You know, Tom, you remind me of conversations that I have with my team constantly, which is we need to be focusing our time within our business on the high value tasks. And if I translate that into what you're talking about, me sat there, if I was a tutor or trainer, marking hours on end or uploading data, as you mentioned, or trying to find the trends, isn't going to be the best of use of my time. Best use of my time is reading it, understanding it, but then executing it, moving that learner further forward. Because, like you said, that we're not pretending the tech's going to be able to do that. It can support, but it needs somebody to lead. No, I love that. And I suppose the best way for teaching maths and English for functional skills kind of versus GCSE resit, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's what I mentioned briefly earlier. You've got at that post-16 kind of reset functional skills, you've got all the disadvantages I described. You haven't got the building, you haven't got the time, you haven't got the hours, but you've got adult learners. There's a process you've got to go through. So use the IA to get on that right course. If not IA, doing what it should be. If you keep doing an IA and then getting learners who are not passing, is your IA suitable? Use those diagnostics. There shouldn't be, you speak to so many providers who go, we do IA in diagnostics. Why? Because everyone else does, and often you should. So often they should because it has value. So that diagnostic, is it going to 3 places? Teacher, tutor to plan their lessons, to plan the gap. Are you giving it back to the learner saying, here are your strengths and weaknesses? Is it feeding into a really powerful edtech platform to go, let's be efficient and find those gaps? And then how are you motivating your adult learners to be driven?
Yeah.
You haven't got the time. If you think whether you've got an hour, 2, 3, 4 hours a week, whatever you've got at best, for some learners, that'll be enough. And they just didn't pass. For most learners, that isn't enough. So how are you motivating, inspiring those learners, saying you can do this? Here are the tools. Here's the hours you've got with us. Here's your online platform. Here are offline resources that you've got. It's on you. We're going to help you. We're going to open that door for you, but you've got to walk through it. Here's the things we're going to help you, but you've got to go as an adult to try and pass your functional skills with GCSE.
And you know what, again, what I'm hearing a lot about there is that empowerment, isn't it? Because, you know, we all know that most providers don't like functional skills. Neither do the tutors delivering it, neither do your learners. But it's what can you do different? What can you do to empower and change that narrative, change that mindset completely? And I suppose finally, Tom, from me, if you had a wish list or you could speak to government, what would you want them to do different?
Yeah, there's lots.
Within the context of what we're talking about, Tom, I suppose I should put that in there as well.
In this context, again, it's fascinating. I taught GCSE. I'd never even heard of a functional skill reel. I've heard it mentioned in the wind. This other qualification doesn't count towards school qualifications, so it's sort of ignored. And that for me is the amount of providers I speak to who say level 2 functional skills, especially in maths, is really hard. And they are having studied the curriculum, made content for it. It's really hard. But frankly, if I got a CV of someone and they had a GCSE, one person had a GCSE, that person had a functional skill, I know they're equivalent at level 2. Do I respect them as much? Probably not. I'm much closer than I used to be. I'm probably still not there, and that's awful. The lack of respect that is given to the functional skills qualifications is huge. The government should be putting time, effort, money into a marketing campaign or similar to give functional skills the respect they're due, and that will then help learners be more engaged with it, because I go, oh, actually, this is a really good qualification. I'm not just having to do this because I didn't pass my GCSE. This is a valuable qualification for me. I'm more driven to do it. The government should be putting much more effort into getting employers and people to realise how valuable these qualifications are.
And you know, Tom, as you just said that out loud, the other thing that went through my head is if I've received a functional skills level 2, it means that I didn't do my GCSEs. So actually, even in the fact that it's there means I didn't do something else. Whereas if what we're trying to demonstrate is a certain level of knowledge, then why functional skills over GCSE? Why not just call it the same thing? Because that's what I've achieved.
Yeah, there's a real thing around, looking at the actual qualifications for post-16. Is a GCSE resit correct? People talk about contextualization, functional skills, and there's a whole thing to look at here at those who are being don't pass. Well, they do pass. They might get a 1, 2, or 3. That is a pass, but don't get the pass required, the good pass, what they should be doing. and the government should be looking at: is functional skills correct? Is the difficulty correct? Is the language correct? Is the marking correct? Is the value, is qualifications correct?
And Tom, I could sit here and talk to you forever. I won't put you through that. But if people did want to reach out because they want to understand how the platform works, what impact it can make, and kind of the revolutionary journey they could have for learners, what's the best way to kind of reach out or get in touch?
Yeah, I think a great thing to do is happy to be connected on LinkedIn and be a nerd over LinkedIn chat and DMs. Love to do that. But we've got a website. Please do look at us. We're used by now over 70% of FE colleges, and a really growing number of training providers are using us to impact and support IA, diagnostics and learning. We've got a great website with great videos, plenty of routes on there to book meetings with people from your areas, or email us directly, but do get in touch and have a look what we do. And yeah, I think.
And Tom, if there's a provider listening into this who wasn't ready to go jump in 2 feet first and transfer the whole of their provision over, are they able to do it in bite sizes? Could they do a pilot?
Yeah, absolutely. We offer kind of no strings attached pilots. We offer like temporary access. I've got one learner I want to try us out, or I've got a tutor who wants to have a look at it. We do that. We really, the proof's in the pudding. And we don't say, no, you can't see anything, here's the bill. Absolutely not. We give demo access, we can show videos, we can come to meetings, we can give you temporary access to play with it, have a go at initial assessment, and compare it to your current platform you might be using, and then take it from there.
Fantastic. No, Tom, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. No doubt see you at the next conference somewhere, and really appreciate you taking that time.
Great. Nice to talk to you. See you again soon.
Good. Take care.
Bye-bye.